Hi, this is Karen Hunt with Silver Rock Consulting. I'm delighted to be here with my good friend and compadre, Mike Grubich with LAK Group. We're here to talk about, what are we seeing in the market? What are some potential solutions that are powerful between culture and strategy?
Karen, as we look at this, the culture and strategy and them coming together, what are some of the things about our partnership that really are exciting for you?
I would say, Mike, there's like two or three things that are really exciting to me. One is, Drucker talks about culture eating strategy, and I would offer up that strategy and culture and partnership are really powerful. So that's number one. Number two, I think across our firms have credibility and reputation, which inherently implies number three, that we have experience, real core experience from being in the trenches, being leaders of different organizations or corporate backgrounds, leading different functional areas across various industries.
I think that the chemistry is one of the things that I found the really the most fascinating between the two, and how aligned we are in our thought. We're both very purpose-based organizations who really want to see outcomes in an organization. And the great thing is that we've done this, as you said. We've been leaders and executives in companies. Both our firms are staffed with those leaders. We haven't been consultants that talk about theory. And so we know how these things apply, and they connect and they integrate, and we drive to those outcomes because we can make those connections.
Like somebody sitting here listening might say, I can find a strategy firm and I can find a culture firm. Why would I find one to work together, right? Why would I find two firms who would want to work together? What do you think?
And I think part of it is because sometimes when you look at one or the other, you get two firms that don't have an integrated thought process, and you get to be a little repetitive. One's going to spend time on the strategy side, interviewing executives, trying to look at legacy information, getting all that data, and then helping with that strategy portion. And then you bring another firm in and is going to work with culture and the people side, and they have to talk to those executives again and get all that information, and then start to build practices that might not line up with the other firm. You're not going to have that with Silver Rock and LAK Group. We're going to do those things integrated together, saving time and energy in the company, and saving dollars and resources with the company as well, and being more efficient with how we operate in our process. And we get to that result a lot quicker. And so it'd be interesting from your point of view, do you see some of the similar commonalities?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say it's this, right? How our strategy and culture comes together is really powerful. And there are times that we will run in parallel, but then coming together at the right points. Just from a path forward is really important. And also from a practical level, right? You talked about time savings, resource savings. So it's not just about money, it's about human capital, the time people spend thinking about this. And it really creates a more comprehensive, more robust, holistic solution. As an example, I can't tell you how many times we've done strategy work with, some of our clients. Example is a healthcare client we worked in. And as we go along the way and creating new revenue streams for them, right? Things that they're going to launch, and they have launched 2 to 3 years later, we also talk about, what are the patient experiences we want to create? And it means, like, what are the cultural implications? Like, the people delivering the experiences need to change their mindset and how they behave. So that's a clear example where having us together, solving for those big transformational issues is a really a big win.
Yeah, that's a great example of how us coming together really does help with that holistic problem-solving approach for a company. When do you think business leaders should come to us? What's the right time, and why?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of different pivot points for a business leader to decide, but I would say one is when they're at a point to think about what's our next era. So that's kind of the big transformational moments. And I would also say in mid-tier, there might be some moments just like, gosh, we've got to pivot, crisis moment, or even beyond, like things are happening, there's market constraints. So we've got to change. So it's strengthening the organization. A, B is big pivots around the building towards the future. And then there might be smaller opportunities to really segment out as well.
And I would add to that and think, when companies now are assessing 2020 and everything that's happened, they're really starting to relook at what are their outcomes that they're expecting in 2021 and beyond. What is organization need to look like? What is their strategy going to be moving forward? And so now is the time to really start to dig into that and look at that more holistically. And so getting a firm like ours together to help them see things from a strategy through an implementation point of view is going to be most advantageous for them.
You know, Mike, as we think about the experience we bring to the table and being out in the market, working with clients, we're also learning and gaining from there. What are some of the trends that you're seeing that you think would be helpful for our audience to hear?
Some of the big things that we're seeing is centers a lot around the middle level of leadership in organizations. Companies have traditionally put a lot of emphasis on, we got to get the executive team aligned. And if we do that, everything will flow down. And the reality is that middle level leaders, your directors, your managers, your supervisors in organizations, they have the greatest impact on people and the customer because they touch both. And so getting them skilled, reskilled, capable of handling what the organization is trying to do really helps build sustainable outcomes. The second thing I would tell you is that the pipeline of talent for organizations is shifting a lot. The mobility factor is increased. Mm-hmm. The skills that are needed, because if you're financial services, you're moving to more digital. If you're healthcare, you're doing more telehealth. Supply chains are shifting because of everything that's going on. The skills that you need are a lot different, and it's time to really start addressing that now in organizations. So the third thing I would say is we're seeing a lot of focus on restructuring and simplifying organization structure based on the outcomes the organization is trying to achieve. So does your structure and talent support the objectives and the strategy of the organization?
It's really good. Those are some really great takeaways.
Yeah, and on your side, are you seeing some similar things?
Yeah, we're seeing some things. Recently, I spoke on a panel about, you know, what are boards thinking about, and I think it translates to what are executives thinking about. So I'll share that here and add a little bit more. You know, we have in marketing the 4 Ps of marketing. I came up with the 4 Ps of board and executive conversations that are happening in a rapid clip. So the first one I would say is about the people. You've already talked about that. Organizations, companies, enterprises are really concerned about how do we make sure we take care of our people, keep them safe, keep them feeling good. And there's the physical safety, right? But there's also the psychological and emotional safety as well. So it's about the people, and then also extends into customers. The second P I would say is around profitability. So that would translate into financial sustainability over time. So how do you make short-term decisions that would impact the long-term? It's a little bit of a reverse, and you know, specifically, there are organizations I know that are doing shorter-term planning, like quarterly planning versus annual planning. The third P that I would talk about is principles, and the principles around that are where and how leaders are making decisions. And this is something that I've just seen time and time again, that in the midst of ambiguity, and even you can argue crisis, right? The 4 pandemics, the 3 or 4 pandemics we've just lived through, making decisions where there's nothing, where the ground has totally shaken, is going back to the principles. What is our vision? What's our mission? What are our values? What's our strategic framework? And that serves as a huge compelling grounding device that organizes and orders steps. And then the fourth P I would talk about is pace. The pace of change is at such an exponential, accelerated manner, so that, you know, days, you know, hours are like days, days are like weeks, weeks are like months. And so we've seen that time and time again. And I'll just leave it with what we've seen is agility is paramount, and the learning skills and the applicability and the adaptability is really important for at an organizational level. You talked about it at an individual level, and I totally agree, and I would bring it up to an enterprise level. So with that, I would say agility in ambiguity is actually stability.
Yeah, that's really well said. And just to kind of bring that to the people side of it, organizations are pushing for that the agility, whether it's agile engineering, agile manufacturing, agile service, so on and so forth. the question becomes, have you developed leaders who are agile enough to lead through that, right? And then that humility and that tolerance for that ambiguity becomes really, really critical, because you need leaders who can be change resilient and can adapt. So that's another example of why, what Silver Rock does and what LAK does merge so nicely, because it's building the agility from a strategy and a process point of view and with the people point of view. And that's kind of the magic solution.
That's right. Love it. Love the magic.
That's right. That's right. We make magic happen, right?
Make magic happen with our clients.
That's right.